Hi, you're watching Sipping Off the Cup on Tequila Aficionado Media. I'm Mike Morales here in San Antonio. That young man is.
I'm Eric Zandona in Vancouver, Washington.
I have a hard time figuring out this new Skype software, because there's no buttons, there's words. I've never had to click on a word before, unless a live link. Weird. Eric and I have been tasting and dissecting La Leyenda Mezcal. Okay. Now, this is we actually were very surprised, pleasantly surprised at the Blanco. They're calling it a Blanco, and they sadly their website right now is non-existent. I'm not sure what's up with their website. They do have wonderful pictures on their Instagram, so go follow them on their Instagram. The interesting thing is that this is a mezcal made in Zacatecas, or produced and bottled, apparently, and they're using blue agave. Now, Eric, I don't know if you have the copy in front of you. Read that copy again for folks who didn't hear us on the first review.
Yeah, so there was a line in their promotional materials that puzzled us and worried us a little bit, and said essentially
flag
that the brand is partnering with a producer known for making high quality, low cost mezcal that is soft on the senses while maintaining a high ABV. And that to us seemed like a red flag for a diffuser. But tasting the Blanco, it didn't taste like a diffuser. It tasted like a traditional, like autoclave, high quality tequila.
Yeah. I told Eric on camera, I said, this tastes like a Highlands tequila.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting things that what's the word I'm looking for? Like detectives, or we're surmising from the clues that we're getting. Oh. Number one, this particular brand is coming in at 38 ABV. The gentleman that sent this to us moved heaven and earth to get this to us because they have no representation. You're probably watching us right now in 2020. But in 2019, late November, they were on a barnstorming tour along with several other mezcal brands from all over the DO. They were going to specific cities together to present these new brands, and Leyenda is one of them. It was looking for representation. I'm thinking that they're looking for distribution, is what I'm surmising. But if this is the Mexican European bottling that we're getting, then from judging from the Blanco, which tasted just like a tequila, we're thinking it's going to come in at 80 proof. It's going to be. We had to nominate it as a brand of promise in the mezcal gateway category. Now, can you explain to the folks who are watching us what the three mezcal categories are? And because this particular brand is telling us that there's an absence of smoke.
Yeah.
And you and I had a problem with that because we're such traditionalists that we're so used to having my mezcal's got to have smoke and a bite.
Well, usually even just a touch, it like gives you that thing. But so in 2017 there was a new law passed that governs how mezcal is labeled, and that based on how it's made. There are three general categories. There's regular, just mezcal. Some people refer to it as industrial, but then there's a second branch, which is artisanal mezcal, and that's like 90% of all mezcal in the U.S. market right now is in that category. So that includes things that are cooked in pit ovens and distilled in copper or maybe clay, and then there's a much older style called ancestral, and that is basically there's no metal used in the production process. You can't use a roller mill. You can't use a copper still. You can't use basically anything that's metal in the production. You use clay stills. You have to crush it by hand. it's very labor intensive. So it's an older style. So
Yeah.
La Leyenda comes in that first category of just mezcal, which basically means they can make it however they want. They can use autoclaves, they can use wood vat fermenters, they can use copper, they can use stainless steel. There's basically no real rules other than it has to be 100% agave and has to be in the denomination of origin. And I think the minimum bottling strength in Mexico is 35%.
Mhm.
And other than that, it's mezcal, right? So, but this is 38, and this is a reposado. And they've told us that for this, it's been aged a minimum of 6 months in Canadian white oak. So I don't know if that means they're like Crown Royal or they're fresh Canadian wood. I don't know. But so I'm interested to taste it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, everybody's making whiskeys these days, so like one of my favorites is Pendleton. I haven't had it in a long time, but I thought it was very. There's another one that I'm dying to try called Tin Cup. I like their commercials.
Right.
But so if they get their wood from like the Rocky Mountains, you know, um, do they? That just thought it was interesting that they said Canadian white oak.
Yeah.
I think there's only so many cooperages in the world. I'm not sure if Canada has a cooperage. Do you know if they do?
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do because what is it? Hiram Walker Distillery, which is like just across the lake from Detroit in
Uh-huh.
Canada. They're huge. They make the JP Weiser, and they also make. I can't remember. They either make Canadian Club or Crown Royal. One of those. I can't remember. And I'm sure they have wood that they have local. They buy a lot of bourbon barrels, but I'm sure they also have their own at the same time. So I don't know.
Well, um, yeah. Let's dive in.
I
I
mean,
mean,
Canada is not known for producing a ton of barrels,
yeah.
but it's always possible.
French oak is also but French oak is a premium. I mean, that's like a small batch. You have to be able to afford to
Right.
buy French oak, even
Right.
virgin French oak.
Yeah.
Used French oak, I would say that it's kind of like a Mercedes it's like your car that even though it's a used car, it maintains its value quite
Right.
well in the secondary market.
Right.
But let's see what Canadian wood does to this thing.
Yeah.
How many months did they say this was being aged?
6 months. I had to give mine a little shake for it to.
Yeah, there we go. All righty. It's got a pretty color.
Yeah, it does. It's a
Yeah.
nice light straw color, golden. I'll move a little bit.
I'm using my Stossel Jarrito for mezcal, and Eric is using the handy dandy Glencairn
Yep.
because I haven't still sent his glassware to him. Uh, it'll be New Year's before you get. Well, it is New Year's now. I got to remember where I'm at and which timeline I'm in.
Yeah.
What a nice wood nose. It's got very pleasant wood notes.
Yeah. So I think so far this is showing really nice. It's got a lot of the like fruity brightness from the Blanco, but there's obvious barrel character layered on top of that as well. It's got
The Blanco, even at 38, was really well done. Had some
Yeah.
good character on that Blanco.
It's got some sweetness from the oak. I think it's nice aroma.
Yeah, let's dive in and see what we got here. I again, if I tasted this blind, I would say I'm tasting a tequila.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think the palate, it's good. It's pretty dry from the oak. Um,
There's a lot of like a cinnamon, peppery spiciness and at mid
yeah,
palate.
yeah, yeah. It starts really sweet. There's this like sweet fruit character right up front, and then that changes, like you said, into like this dry cinnamon spice,
Yeah,
and then it kind of fades away.
that finish is like medium to short.
Yeah, yeah,
It sticks around on the retronasal, but just in the back of the throat, just the rear of the palate.
yeah. The residual, I get more like cooked agave character on
Mhm.
the finish than I do on the palate. I feel like as it's coming sort of back up in the retronasal that's when some of the more cooked notes are showing.
Mhm.
But it's nice.
I'm just, you know, I'm confused. Well, it's like you said, you were conflicted, with the Blanco. I was more apt to actually adopt the Blanco because I was so happy that it didn't taste like a diffuser.
Right.
Because the wording technically the wording is a little iffy. It raised a lot of red flags. But the Reposado, this is a hearty Reposado.
Mm-hmm.
There are tequilas that we've had, last year. I keep saying this to a lot of the other TJs that it seems like the Reposado is making a comeback and they're making a statement with the Repo. Some of them only have a Blanco and a Repo.
Yeah.
But I, it's blue agave. It comes from Zacatecas. It's made. It's allowed to be called mezcal according to the normas. There, as you said, there were. If you check their Instagram, they have a picture of the inside of their fermentation vats, and it's stainless steel.
Yeah.
It's an industrial location, but this is good stuff, man.
It is. I think personally, as we've discussed, I tend to like more agave character in my aged expressions
Mm-hmm.
than this has. But that being said, I think it's really well made. As the wood is not completely overpowering the agave, it's still there. I think if you are a fan of, and this is totally subliminal because I know they use Canadian oak, but if you're a fan of Canadian whiskey, like this is gonna be like a really good tequila. I almost said tequila. It's gonna be a really good mezcal for you to try. Because it's got it's really nice character. That mid palate that's dry and spicy is really nice. And I'm trying to think, like, I don't remember, it's been a while since I've had a reposado that's like this. So it's really unique, I feel like, in its flavor profile. And a talented bar person could do something really nice with this. But I think an old fashioned, it's a little bit of sugar, a little bit of bitters, and like a lime peel, not a lime, a lemon or orange.
Uh-huh.
I think this would really like sing.
I'm getting, the residual, like you said, at mid palate. It's almost a hot spiciness now. It's almost like when you have a good salsa and you go back and you go
Yeah.
back and then the heat starts to increase.
Right.
It's now and it's been a long time since I've had a Canadian whiskey. Is this characteristic? Because you're the whiskey dude. By the way, if you don't know who Eric is, he's very much involved in the American Distilling Institute.
Yeah.
It's the American Distillers Institute, isn't it?
Distilling.
Distilling. Sorry, it's ADI. And And so you're familiar with a lot of, more whiskeys than probably I've ever had. So
Mhm.
but is that a characteristic, the spiciness, is this a characteristic of a Canadian whiskey? Because for me, Canadian whiskeys are blended. So isn't that making it just softer?
Yeah, yeah. So the Canadian whiskeys are known primarily as being blends, which means that they're kind of taking a more full body whiskey and then blending it with a lighter one to kind of come up with this midpoint. Um, but the base of most Canadian whiskey is rye, so it's mostly rye whiskey, and which tends to have a spiciness to it.
Okay.
So it is quite possible that that if these are used Canadian barrels, that some of that rye spice is sort of transforming with the agave into that cinnamon thing. But one other thing that kind of came to me on the finish is I think this would work excellent with a cigar. I think it would
Yeah.
be. I think it would really work excellent.
Now, would you say the cigar would have to be a full bodied or like a medium, you know, um, I mean, again, there's a lot of characters, a lot going on in
Yeah.
this mezcal. I almost called it a tequila too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time because if I were to taste this blind and nobody told me that this was a mezcal, I'd say it was a tequila.
Right. I think a medium or a full body uh, cigar, something with like a natural wrapper or Connecticut, I think would pair really well with this. Maduro might be a bit much, uh, but
We might save the Maduro when we taste the añejo.
yeah, maybe so.
Again, this is what's this called? La Leyenda Mezcal.
Yeah.
You can find them on Instagram right now. Their website is down. As I said before, in November, they were on a barnstorming tour with the president of the CRM, with several other brands. Another brand that Matt Metris and I tasted, that you might have already seen the review on, mezcal from Durango, which was beautiful. And so I'm again, there's got to be a space on the shelf for this mezcal, and by all indications, it's being done the right way, and that's your giveaway right there. That every mezcal now has to have a QR code.
Yeah.
And that is telling you that it meets the CRM qualifications. Right. And honestly, this is really interesting because tequila should there's the CRM, the mezcal industry has been trying to remove itself away from the mistakes that the tequila industry has made, because tequila is notorious for keeping things close to the vest and not telling you a lot of things, and it's rare to find a tequila that's going to give you a lot more information. Whereas in the mezcal industry, with the ancestral and a lot of times the artisanal brands give you almost too much information.
Right.
It's almost TMI. It's a laundry list of stuff on it, and it can be daunting for the gateway people who just want to move over and find out what the deal is. So this is, I'm going to go on a limb again, Eric. Brand nominee in that mezcal gateway category, because I don't foresee this is going to come in at anything higher than 80 proof.
No, probably not. But even at 38, really showing well. Ton of character. So and this is what I said, in the last review. I think what we're discovering is there's a lot of really good stuff being made in Mexico that's not from Jalisco and not from Oaxaca. And it's out there, and we're just sort of discovering it, and that's fun. So
we're actually probably two of the first people in the U.S. to taste this.
Yeah.
So thanks again to these folks who made this happen.
Yeah.
Stick with us. We are going to be tasting La Leyenda Añejo, but that's our take on the Reposado. I am Mike Morales here in San Antonio. That gentleman out there is
Eric Zandona in Vancouver, Washington.
You have been watching and listening to Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media. If you are watching us on YouTube and you've tasted this stuff by the time you see this, write us a note. Let us know. Give us a comment. Subscribe. Hit that red button, and Eric will tell you what cigar to pair with your mezcal. And if you're listening to us on your podcasts, anywhere where you download podcasts, please download ours. And whatever you do, tomar sabiamente.
Sip wisely.